welcome to Longboard 101. So this is how you're about to learn how to skate to a happy life. Okay, so let me just talk a little bit about what we'll be learning today. All right, so we'll be doing a bit of introduction to longboarding itself. After that, we'll be learning some safety tips, and then from there, we'll be doing skate demos. So I'll be getting down to the physical touches of it. All right, so I'll try to make it as less boring as possible, so do bear with me. Okay, so introduction to longboarding. All right, so what is longboarding? So to kind of just talk a little bit about it, we're going to start with a history. So we all started about surfing, right? So surfing, I'm not too sure if you guys have seen it on Hawaii beaches, stuff like that. So surfing is what really generated and started out. So from there, it became skateboarding because they want to do it more on land when the tides are not very good. So from there, it evolved into longboarding, which is actually a slightly different discipline from what skateboarding is today. Okay, and so what are the perks of skating? So it's very good for bonding with children, it's good for bonding with people of different ages. It helps to relieve stress and navigate depression. Of course, it is an individual sport, so don't feel like you have to find people to skate with. But it is good to skate with people too. And of course, it helps give you some sense of freedom to learn different things, try out different stuff, combinations, and so on and so forth. All right, now, what is longboarding? So longboarding is actually a trending skate sport that has become popular worldwide. For about past, I think, 3 to 5 years, things have been getting quite popular, especially during the COVID period, when lockdown and everything, people wanted a reason to get out of the house to go and exercise, and some people don't want to run, they want to do something that's a bit more comfortable. So longboarding became a popular sport. All right. So what are the different disciplines of longboarding? So we have actually freestyle dancing, which is one of our most popular discipline in Singapore. So if any of you have been to MBS before, or you have been to stadium, and you've seen people on the boards doing fancy footworks, doing big tricks, yeah, those are freestyle dancing. Long distance pumping is a little bit different from what you would normally see. So if you do chance upon your, ECP or any PCNs, but usually more towards the ECP side because it's a longer route, you'll see a different kind of board where it's a bit lower to the ground, bigger wheels. That's long distance pumping. So there's a technique for that. And then last but not least, something that's very rare. So if you really want to, start hunting downhill longboarding, then I would suggest you start doing that at night. Just don't hunt for anything else. But anyways, so downhill longboarding is all about just, going down slope, doing a couple of slides, and then getting down to the hill, and then you just go at full speed. So yes, and why longboarding? Why? So longboarding is actually quite easy for beginners, and it's really built, for cruising. And what cruising is actually to go from point A to point B on a long distance. Not the ship cruise, but yes. And of course, it's a lot harder to fall as compared to skateboarding, mainly because of the fact that it's bigger, longer, and it's less reactive in terms of the turning. Okay, so now we're going to get on to our safety precautions. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do a warm-up. All right, so I'm going to set my side longboard for now. Okay, and then we're going to talk a little bit about safety precautions. Now, the first thing that you want to do is to make sure that you warm up, right? So before you skate, you want to make sure that your ankles, okay, you want to make sure they're not too stiff, so give it a nice roll. Do practice precaution. I have somebody who sprained her ankle, so I'm pretty sure none of you will do that, but yes, so do make sure that your ankles are well stretched. Once you go from there, you want to actually stretch your calves. So calves is very important. You don't want to get cramps in the middle of it. You don't want to be stuck on the board and then shouting for someone, a stranger, or any of your friends for help. All right, so it's a very good thing to actually make sure that your calves are well stretched before you ever get on top of the board. All right, and then your upper body, however that you feel that it's necessary to make sure that you relax. So make sure that you give a nice stretch. If you have to, you can touch your toes. If not, yes, you can do as per how you would normally do for upper body. All right, second, we're going to talk about protective gear. Okay, so for protective gear, you can actually buy those from Decathlon. All right, so they're very simple. We'll talk about the wrist first. The wrist is the most important thing to have. So why the wrist is so important is to make sure that when you fall, you do not hurt your wrist. So there's actually a hard cover in the front. Okay, there's a hard cover in the front that will protect your wrist. So do make sure that that hard cover is on the front and not on the other side. Okay. Second, your elbows. Now, your elbows, the tendency for you to actually have your elbows touch the ground is a lot lower. But in the case that you're going at high speed or you're performing something new, okay, make sure that you wear some elbow guards, just in the case that you do fall and you end up rolling. All right, third, your knee guards. So, knee guards are very important mainly because of the fact that when you fall, you'll be on all fours, right? So you have your wrists and your knees that will be in contact with the ground at first contact, okay? So third thing, okay, this is where it gets interesting, falling safely. Now, many of you would ask, how do you fall safely, right? If you fall, you're most probably going to, get injured. That's not true. So falling safely is to make sure that you don't, get injuries in unwanted places. Like for example, you don't want it to, sprain your wrist, or you don't want it to, scar any parts of your forearm. Okay. So to talk about falling, okay, we want to make sure that if you were to accidentally fall forward, okay, you want to make sure that you roll. Okay. So I'm not going to do it here because it's not going to look pretty, but you want to roll forward. Okay. If you can, do make sure that you roll towards your shoulders, be it wherever side that you fall. Okay, so make sure that you roll forward. Now, if you were to fall back, okay, one very simple thing to do is to make sure that you sit and push yourself out, all right? So you want to make sure that you sit and push yourself out. So make sure that your wrists are touching the ground to protect yourself from getting any unnecessary injuries that you don't want to. Okay, so that is to make sure that you fall safely. And why is falling safely so important? It's because you want to make sure that you save your own life and save other people's lives in the case that you go at high speed situations. So there are times that you might go downhill and then you pick up speed. Okay, so if you accidentally fall, do make sure that you fall the right way, be it forward or backwards. And also make sure that you don't push the board too far out, but you'll be fine. Okay, fourth thing. Now, common problems when you start longboarding or skateboarding in general, all right, is weight distribution. Now, I'll talk a little bit about that during the demo, but do take note, weight distribution is very important in terms of where do you put your weight as compared to your front or your back. So do make sure that weight distribution is very important. All right, and then the shaking of board. Now, sometimes when you stand on the board and the board starts to shake, first thing you want to do, stay still, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and relax. Okay, that should stop the board from shaking. Generally, the reason why the board is shaking is because you're trying to control way too much. Okay, so just relax, and you'll be fine. And last but not least, unstable stance. Now, I'll talk a little bit about unstable stance also in the demo, so keep your ears peeled for that. And we are on to the skate demo. Ooh, I apologize. Now, let me introduce to you my partner for today. This is my longboard. She has a name. I like to call her Catherine, but some of you may want to name it differently. So, Odyssey Boards, we actually make our own boards. So, do make sure that, if you ever want to purchase our boards, you can go find us. But yes, so Odyssey Boards, we are actually a local brand. Now, we're going to talk about these few things. So, we're going to talk about foot positioning, our stance, weight distribution, and then, of course, toe and heel side. This is a little bit about carving in terms of your turning the board. All right. So what we're going to do is we are going to start with feet positioning. Okay. So feet positioning is very important mainly because of the fact that you want to make sure that you get on and off the board safely as possible and as easy as possible. Right. So what you want to do is to make sure that you talk about the T position. So T position is where you will learn how to get on and off the board. All right, so you make sure that your weight, your weight is placed on the front foot. You want to balance towards the front. Okay, so for now, I'm going to show you my side view first, just to explain a little bit, and then I'll show you the front view to at least let you see how it feels like. All right, so from there, what you want to do is to make sure that your weight is on the front. You're going to balance, you're going to tiptoe, and you're going to bring your back foot into a T-shaped position. So this is the very first position that you want to learn, the T-shaped position. Okay, so make sure that your chest is facing forward. How to know whether or not, you just make sure that you draw a line, down to your nose, the chest, and as long as the chest is pointed the same direction as your front foot, you are doing okay. For some of you, if let's say, for example, you feel that your chest ends up tilting towards the side, that's okay, just not too much to the other foot. Okay, now, second, you want to make sure that your knees are bent slightly, so try not to lock them. Okay, so make sure that you can just relax a little bit, and then make sure that your focus weight is always on the front foot. All right, the second position that you want to learn today is also the 11 position. Now, in the 11 position is how you will learn to turn left and right, or what I would like to call carve, as efficient as possible. It's not that it's not possible to do it in T position, it's just that it's more efficient to do it in 11 position. Okay, so make sure that in 11 position, you want to sort of keep your feet shoulder width apart. Okay, so to tell that, you want to make sure that you readjust, make sure that it's shoulder width apart. Same thing, you want to make sure that your knees are bent slightly. Okay, so do make sure that you don't straighten it or lock it. So when you do that, that can actually cause quite a bit of unstable stance later on. All right, from there, how do you want to tell whether or not you are in the right position of your board? So as you can see, okay, so the wheels, you notice that my 2 feet are now closer to this side of the board as compared to the other side. So you kind of want to make sure that you are somewhat evened up. Okay, so this is how you tell. And then last but not least, weight distribution. So weight distribution is actually very important. You don't want to put too much, let's say for example, you're going this way, you don't want to put too much on the back foot. Okay, same if let's say we are going this way, you don't want to make sure you put too much on the back. So it's always the front. All right, so I am going to come down safely by changing back to a T position, and then I'm going to step down. All right, so we're going to talk about stance today. So you're going to learn 2 new terms, goofy and regular. Okay, so what is stance is basically to kind of like help you to find out which one is your front foot. Right? Some of you are going to ask me, is my front foot on the left or is it on the right? How do I tell? Well, there are 2 things that you can do. The first thing is to make sure that the board, okay, is in between your feet. All right, so you can choose either your right or your left, but generally I will say you can just do both to see what's more comfortable. So you can start with your right, you can put it in the center of the board, you're going to balance, okay, and then you are going to let go and let yourself balance for a while. Okay, when you do that with your other foot, and you feel that, okay, maybe the right's a little bit better or maybe the left's a little bit better, that's how you tell. So if you are right foot forward, if your balancing foot is right, you are a goofy rider. If your balancing foot is on the left, you're a regular rider. If you ask me why these are the terms, I have no idea. So, yeah, so it's just terms, right? Okay, we are going to talk about weight distribution. Okay, so my rule number 1 is to never lean back. Okay, it helps because when you move, you don't want to lean back on the back foot. You don't want to do this because if you do this, what's going to happen is going to slip. Next minute, you know your ankle is going to twist, and then somebody's going to have to call the ambulance. I'm just kidding. Please. It's not as bad, but you don't want to fall, okay? The bottom line is you don't want to fall. You want to make sure that you're stable at all times, okay? So a lot of times, the reason why people lean back is because you guys grew up taking the bus, taking the MRT, taking public transport. When the bus or MRT moves forward, the first thing you do is you're going to slam your entire weight to the back. So if you feel like that when you do it on the board, that's fine. That's normal, okay? It just needs a little bit of tweaking. Just make sure you just tell yourself, okay, I got to focus on the front foot, and you'll be fine. All right, now, next, how to carve. Okay, we are going to talk a little bit more about carving. So we're going to talk about toe side and heel side, and what they are is actually the ability to carve left or right. Now, depending on which side that you are skating, like I said, so the front foot, right, is the front foot goofy, and then if your front foot's on the left, regular, toe side and heel side means 2 very different directions. So we're going to cover on all 4. Okay, so we're going to talk about toe side first. So very important thing to take note on toe side. All right, let me just get on my board and I'll show it to you. Please do make sure that you practice precaution, so go up. All right, so once you're in 11 position, as I mentioned, this is how you learn to carve. Oops, it's a down slope a little bit, so let me just reposition first. Okay, so when you're here, what you want to do is you want to actually learn how to pressure towards your toe side. When you pressure towards your toe side, 2 different directions. If let's say you're moving towards your left foot forward, that is turning right. All right? If let's say, for example, you are right foot forward, you'll be turning left. Okay? So toe side means 2 very different directions for 2 different footings. Okay? So how do we achieve toe side? Now this looks like a very exaggerated version. All right, so generally it probably won't bend as much, but yes. So this is what toe side looks like. Okay, so when we talk about toe side, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little exercise on the ground. Okay, so most of you have probably seen Michael Jackson. If you don't, you can just YouTube that. So what we're going to do, okay, we're going to bend our knees. We're going to lift our heels and pressure towards the toe, and you're going to do this. So it's kind of a bit like, Michael Jackson. You're going to just don't yell, just go. All right, okay, I'm just kidding. But yes, just make sure that you bend your knees, pressure to your toes, and that is how you will learn to pressure toe side. Now, a very important thing to do when you do your toe side is to make sure that you don't lean forward. Okay, because why? What happens if you were to lean forward, if you were to pressure toe side, is you're going to go deeper and deeper and you'll eventually fall over. Okay, so just make sure that your body weight, okay, your stance is just straight, all right? Don't lean back, that's rule number 1, right? So make sure that you bend your knees, pressure to your toes, and your body stays still. Okay, but please don't stiffen up, because when you stiffen up, later the turning process will be a little bit harder, all right? Now, when we do heels, it's going to be a little bit different. So a lot of people will actually have a lot more troubles doing heel side. All right, so why heel side is a lot harder is because when you practice on the ground, you're going to tell me, I feel like falling. And then when you do it on the board, you're going to ask me, how do I turn more? I'm here to explain that to you. All right, so when you do heels, first thing you want to do to practice, same thing, you're going to bend your knees, and you are now going to pressure towards your heels. Now, when you start to pressure towards your heels, you realize that the body will start to lean forward. Okay, that's fine, okay, because you're actually going towards a sitting position. So you're going to say sitting position. Okay, so if your butt starts to stick out a little bit, that's fine. That's actually good, just not too much. Okay, some of you may end up doing what is known in the current generation as the anime run, where they do this. So try not to make sure that your body is too forward. Make sure that it's a little bit upright. Okay, so when you translate that onto the board, okay, I'm gonna try and see which camera is gonna catch, but when you do this, so you notice that it's a little bit more exaggerated as per now, right? So you wanna make sure that you bend your knees, pressure towards your heels, and you are going to stabilize like this. Some of you may end up leaning backwards. Okay, so this is actually back. So again, rule number 1, you don't want to lean back. So make sure that you don't overlean because you are going to fall off. All right? So do remember to practice precaution when you are up, T and 11, and then from here you are going to learn to pressure towards the heels. So when you do heels for right foot forward, you are turning right. If you are doing it for left foot forward, you'll be turning left. Okay, so to kind of help you to understand better, as long as you are turning towards your heel side, that's heel side carving. If you're turning towards your toe side, that's toe side carving. So it's easier for you to kind of tell whether to turn left or right. Okay, now I'm going to show a little bit about carving. So carving generally helps if, let's say, for example, I want to go from one point to other in a curve. Okay, so I'm going to try my best to draw a curve on this. All right, so this is for those that are right foot forward. Okay, once you push, you go into 11, you pressure, and you hold. Okay? Now, as you notice, that was quite a sharp turn. When that happens, sometimes your body will lean forward. So just make sure that you hold into position, don't lean any more forward, right, and stabilize. Same goes if you were to do it in the regular stance. Okay, left foot forward. Once you push, T and 11, and then you can pressure your toe side. Okay, so when you pressure toe side, that actually helps you to carve. Now, if I do heel side, it'll look the same, just in a different direction. Okay, so for those on the right foot forward, once you push, all right, T and 11, and you pressure towards your heels, you will notice you will start to turn towards that movement. Okay, now, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit more about how to stop yourself, because I realized I didn't add this in the slide, but we're going to talk a little bit about stopping yourself or slowing down. So braking is very important, right? If you start moving, you need to learn how to stop yourself. Okay, so A very important thing that you want to do is to make sure that you learn how to kind of like tap, okay, tap the floor. So when you start pushing off, what you would generally do is that your feet, you will push off and get on the board, okay? So when you stop, you want to make sure that you balance on your front foot, and then your other foot, okay, will tap the ground. This is not long enough for me to show, so I'm just going to do it stationary. So the idea that you want to actually achieve is to be able to balance on the front foot, okay? So make sure that you balance on your front foot. You are going to tap with your toes first, 1, 2, and by the time you hit 3, you will put your whole foot down. Now, it is very important that you do not do heels first, okay, especially when you do it down slope, because if you were to start with heels and you're going at a high-speed scenario, what's going to happen is that you might end up putting your toes down, and it might actually sprain your ankle this way. All right, so spraining your ankle this way is not pretty, not fun. I've been there, done that. So do practice precaution. All right, so you want to make sure that you do taps. So I'm going to try and see if I can show this on camera. All right, so make sure that when you're moving, you want to tap 1, 2, and 3. Now, if you feel that, let's say, for example, you are going a little bit too fast and 3 is too little, 4 and 5 is fine, or however that you feel like you need to do so in order to get yourself to stop. Now, in the case of emergency, what happens then? The safest thing to do is to step off the board or just jump off. All right, imagine somebody's in your way. What you want to do, okay, is to make sure that you just step off and walk it off. Now, in the case that, let's say, for example, you're going at high speed and you are unable to just step off, all you need to do is just give a nice hop off, give a couple of steps, run if you need to, and it should stop the momentum. All right, now, that's very important. Okay, so do practice precaution when it comes to stopping yourself or slowing yourself down. All right, so just as how you do your pushing, your focus is on the front foot. All right, and then same when it comes to braking. All right. Okay, so we are going to move on towards this. Now, many of you would kind of know that level 1 fundamentals is what has been taught today. All right, that's pretty much getting from point A to point B, being able to steer left and right, and of course, learning how to stop and learning how to slow down. So this level 1 is how you can kind of like gauge as to whether or not what level you're at. If you have cleared fundamentals level, congratulations, you are no longer a beginner. All right, so it means that you're able to actually pretty much move on the board comfortably. All right, so if you're able to push the board, get from point to point B without the board kind of like shaking, to kind of demonstrate what board shaking will look like, it will look like this. If you start doing this and you have no idea why, make sure to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and you'll be fine. Okay, so make sure you try not to control the board too much. So do practice precaution when you do that. Okay, so be able to turn confidently. So when you want to talk about turning confidently, is to make sure that when you pressure and you turn, all right, you want to make sure that it's one full turn rather than taps. So there are times where people, they try to do taps. They look like this, and then they are asking me, why am I not turning? So do practice precaution. You want to make sure that you pressure and hold. All right, so make sure you pressure and hold. Okay? And of course, last but not least, brake safely. So when you want to talk about braking safely, do remember that when you brake, you want to make sure your weight distribution is always on the front foot. Okay, so wherever the front foot is, make sure that you put on the front foot. Okay, so to take note, this is what it looks like to brake safely. There are cases where you might end up doing it on the other side, where you will put more weight on the one that is braking, and it will look like this. Okay, so when this happens, remember when you fall, make sure that you sit and push yourself away from the board. Now, the board's life is not as important as yours, so do make sure that you save yourself first before you save the board. Okay, so this is level 1 fundamentals. Now, from there, what else is there to do after level 1? Now, level 2 is a split between dancing and urban cruising. So we're going to talk a little bit about urban cruising first because it's very similar in terms of what level 1 fundamentals is like. Right? So urban cruising is when you go out to the PCN, when you go out to the park, okay, and you are you want to skate. So rather than skating under the HDB or maybe at a secluded spot or in a car park or anything like that, urban cruising is going out and actually venturing and seeing the world for yourself. So urban cruising is all about making sure that your speed is there. So you want to make sure that you are about jogging speed before you ever attempt urban cruising. If you realize that somebody's walking past you and you're on the board, well then you're too slow because you've got wheels. They don't. They've only got 2 feet, right? So you want to make sure that you are about that level before you even try urban cruising. Okay, so we do actually have courses like that as well for lessons to teach you on the safety, on how to cruise on PCN roads or even on the roadsides that you see. So these are some kind of things that will actually teach you as well. All right, how to overcome obstacles. Now, identifying obstacles on the road is very important. Things like how you drive, there are humps on the road, right? So it works the same. Some PCNs actually do have humps, okay? And then from there, you want to make sure that you actually identify them and how to get over them. Those are very important things. And of course, being a proactive and intuitive rider, that's something that we will teach you in urban cruising. All right, so kind of like learning how to do your judgment. Okay, I need to turn left. At what point do you start to turn left? Okay, at what point do you actually get ready to go into your 11th position and effectively just give a nice turn? Sometimes the turns are sharp, sometimes it's a bit more gradual, so you want to be able to tell what's what. Okay, and the other section of level 2. Now, dancing is something that is a little bit less common, I would say, but it's very popular in worldwide. So what dancing looks like, kind of, the fundamentals, is the ability to just turn and do little dance steps on it. Okay, so I'm going to try and show one more. This is called the cross step, just to pique your interest a little bit. So what longboard dancing kind of looks like, okay, is making sure that you're able to take 1, 2, 3, and 4 steps like that, as simply as that. All right, so this is just the basic fundamentals of longboard dancing. So there's a lot of things to actually learn. There are a lot more combinations that you can try. So longboard dancing is all about finding a sense of freedom, learning how to piece everything together. Okay, because be it dance, be it tricks, they're kind of like puzzle pieces. All right, so you want to piece it this way, you want to piece it that way. It's up to you. All right, you can create different kind of sets, different kind of lines. Lines are what we would call when you do like 2 to 3 dance steps or more in a single succession. So those are called lines. All right, so those are the level 2 courses that we do have. So we are actually a local brand once again. So in the case that you do want to give it a try after you have cleared your fundamentals on your own, by all means, do join us. But if you feel that you want to join us with fundamentals as well, we do offer that kind of stuff as well. Okay, so yes, I want to talk a little bit about our... So we actually give a free class for every board purchase. So if you want to purchase boards right now, you can actually join us. You can just search up our website and you can use this code. Okay, you get you $30 off for board purchases. And we're already currently running our year-end sale. So, it's stackable. So it means another $30 off. All right, so do it. Take a look at our website, see the different kinds of boards that we have. This is a 46-inch longboard. It's the longest edition that we have. So as you can tell, our designs matches our, what do you call that? The name of the boards, yeah. All right, so all these selections, you can take a look at it. We have one that we have a phoenix looking like, so you can take a look. It's the one that's called a sea lion. So if you want to be a bit more patriotic, sea lion's the way to go. But if you want to get something as simple as just a cruiser deck, which is like, just want to go out there and do your urban cruising, the 42-inch is just as fine as well. So yeah, these are some things, some options that you can take a look. So do remember when you purchase our boards, of course, it's one free class every time we board. So we give you a complimentary class, we teach you, from A to Z, and then once that is done, if you want to sign up packages, our coaches will actually run you through the process from there. All right, and yeah, I guess that's it. Yes.
Thank you, for the very fun demonstration. I think we have some time, but I just have my own personal interest about this. Javier, I heard you have a name for this board.
Yes.
Catherine?
Catherine.
How do you come up with Catherine? This name so cool. Or you just like randomly?
I woke up one day. I was like, okay, yeah, this is Catherine, because I own many boards, right? So I have a very interesting collection of boards. So from time to time, I change. I have to give names.
Okay.
If not, they don't feel special.
Right. Okay. Do you have a favorite move with Catherine? Do you want to show us?
I do, but
Or is it too short?
probably not in the indoors. But I'll try one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put this down.
Let me hold.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You ever heard of have you ever seen ballet?
Ballet?
Yeah, like ballet.
Yes.
So you know how ballets, they do the twirl? Yeah, so it's called a pirouette, right? So we can do that. Generally, you want to do this when it's moving. I'm going to try and attempt doing it stationary. It's a lot harder. So...
Do I need to move?
No, you don't. You'll be safe, no worries. If anything happens, Catherine will get out of the way. Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, Catherine, we're going to do this once. There you go.
Oh, so cool.
Yes,
okay.
it's a lot harder than it seems.
Okay.
But
One question only.
a bit.
Am I like leveling up a challenge? Okay,
A
great.
little bit. Just a little bit.
Okay.
Yes.
So just want to find out a bit more, like where do you usually conduct your classes, and like, where do you usually, because I was looking at your Instagram, I mean, y'all go like MBS sometimes, right?
Yes. Okay, so our general location is at Stadium, National Stadium, the one at 100 plus strike, level 3. The reason for that is because it's sheltered, so times like this, monsoon season, it's sheltered. So we will still conduct classes. So I think that will be a very good spot for us. So that's what we actually, where we usually teach. From time to time, we do bring our students out to MBS. So that's the one that we talk about, level 2, the urban cruising one.
Okay.
So we actually teach you like, we are going to go from stadium to MBS. How are the terrains different, change, all these kind of things. It actually helps. So when we bring them there, then once they compete, then they've achieved their goal. So but to answer your question, any flat ground is fine. Any flat ground. So even in the car park, that's fine. Yes.
Okay, cool. Because I have a 3-year-old daughter, I'm just curious, like, from what age can they start learning?
My youngest is 3 years old.
Really?
Yes. My oldest is 66 as of the moment.
Your oldest is, okay.
So if anybody's at 70, you're welcome. I would like to take the challenge. But yes, my oldest is 66. Youngest is 3 years old. So 3 years old to about 5, 6. Generally, what you would want to do is to kind of like get them used to the idea of moving, because their motor skills are a little bit different, right? So just like how we have developed ours when we take the public transport, right? As I mentioned just now, you balance. You don't want to put too much weight on the back.
Right.
The kids, you want to kind of make sure that they get that sense of idea as well. So you put them on a board and then you just roll them kind of like that. Yes.
Yeah. And kids really learn very fast.
I would say it's more towards just getting used to the idea of it. Because for kids, it's just like learning how to walk, right? So learning how to skate is kind of a little bit easier for them because they have lesser fear. As we grow up, we kind of like, oh no, my legs are not as great, so you don't want to fall. But for kids, man, they're fearless. Like even I'm scared. I've been skating for 8 years. I'm scared. I'm still scared. Yeah. Kids, you just come up to it. It's like, no problem. Then just like skate. I'm just like, oh, all right.
Yeah, I mean, talking about this, right, about fear, right? So, I mean, I believe like some of them online here are probably like, above 50, right? And they probably would like to try this. And I mean, you have a student who is like 66, right?
Yes.
So how do they overcome this fear? Like, what will you do, or how will you encourage them to really sign up for this? Because I think any sports some of them, they perhaps this is something that they want to do since young, and now that they have some time after retirements and all, and they want to learn. So what can we do to encourage them to pick up these sports?
I think first and foremost, just knowing that it will eventually take time, right? So understanding that it will take time, and telling yourself that it's okay, you just have to get started, and then a step at a time, you will realize that it gets easier and easier after every session. So that I think really helps, because as of today, after teaching for close to 4 years, within an hour, most of them are able to do just the basic fundamentals of like what I just shared today. So I think this was like less than an hour. So a lot of them really, within the hour, they were able to get from point A to point B. The steering part is a little bit tricky. That's the one that usually needs a little bit more guidance. But really just being able to go from point A to point B is a big win for most people already, because it's just understanding that, okay, you need to get on and off safely, and then from there it's just doing little taps. It's like kind of like how kids when they walk, they do like little waddles, and so same concept. You just start off one at a time, and then more or less you'll be done in about a month or two lah. So yeah, that's the idea. Yes.
I mean, that's great, and I think it's really nice to know that actually, you have students who are like above 50. Yeah, so I mean, it motivates people and encourage them to actually try out these sports. Yes, so I think right now we can go into the Q&A questions. We have some questions for you. Okay. Okay, the first question here, I think just now I've asked, but I mean, for the benefit of everyone, I shall ask again. Any suitable age group to enjoy these sports or exercise?
Youngest is 3, but I would say to give a safe margin, you can start with 6, 7 years old will be a good start to actually really enjoy the sport, because from 3 to 6, the only thing that you'll be learning is just motor skills and balancing skills. It's a little bit harder. There is no age cap, so if you are 70 and 80 and you're adventurous and you want to give it a try, you can look for me.
Yeah, look for Javier.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, this is about like some history of longboard. So, perhaps you can share with us, when was longboard started in Singapore, and are there any competition in this region so far?
Okay. I'm not too sure when longboard was introduced into Singapore, but I do know that around the late 1990s, 1980s, this is the time where skateboarding was introduced. I think maybe even way before that. So skateboarding eventually evolved into longboarding overseas, and then I think people who travel, they talk about it, and then they started to bring in. So I'm not too sure when longboarding actually started in Singapore. But I've been skating for 8 years, and before that, I think there was about 20 years of history already. So I say give or take maybe about 30 years ago.
I see. Yeah. So the next question is, where can I longboard in Singapore? I think, that's the questions that I actually earlier asked.
Yes. Okay, to just sort of like recap, as long as you have any flat ground, that's fine. So car park is fine. PCNs are really a great place to do so, but do watch out for the stone seats or any kind of twigs. Those are pretty much,
What is the difference between skateboard and longboard? Actually, I asked this question before the session starts.
Yes. Okay, to just kind of like give a very quick run as to what's the difference between skateboarding and longboarding. Skateboarding, they are a lot smaller, so they are more reactive in terms of like turning left and right. Of course, they are meant for what we would like to call like urban tricks. So you think like your stairs, the bigger flares and everything. Not saying that we can't do it, it's just slightly different. Longboarding is more towards very different kind of disciplines. So that would be pretty much. But if you talk about the difference, smaller, more reactive. This one, however, runs smoother because the wheels are actually a lot smaller on skateboards. These are actually bigger.
Right.
Can't really tell, but yes.
In terms of technique-wise,
they are the same.
They are the same.
They're the same. The fundamentals are the same. It's only the tricks that's a little bit different.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, in terms of like the name, the longboard, that means this also can travel even longer than skateboard.
I would say in one push, yes.
One push, right?
In that one push that if you use the same amount of strength on the longboard versus the skateboard, longboards will definitely beat skateboard in that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, next question. Wow, it's a very personal question. How tall are you? Because you look so tall. Is it harder for people who are taller, bigger in build?
Okay, so I'm actually 1.85 meters tall. If you talk about whether is it harder for people who are taller and bigger, I would say sometimes, depending on how well you can kind of like understand your weight. But fret not, because we do have boards that are a little bit stiffer. So when we talk about stiffness, when you stand on the board and you bounce on it, you notice that this one doesn't bounce as much. I have one that doesn't bounce at all. So those are actually built for like really bigger builds, like we're talking like 100 kg. So those, when they step on it, it doesn't feel as bad. So yeah, I would say it's possible to do it. Just need to understand your weight balance and you'll be fine.
So I guess the question is also like, you guys do customization for boards, right? I mean, for like custom to different builds and different.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Can I learn this with my kids? Is this a family friendly activities?
I actually have a few like ongoing classes. They are all like family packages. So there's like one mother and 2 kids, and they're like doing regular classes every 2-3 weeks. So yeah, I would say it's a family friendly activity. Okay,
cool. Yes. I mean, the one who you asked, you just asked, right? So please go and sign up. I think actually that's quite cool. Imagine you can just skate together and then have these
yes.
activities together. I mean, I imagine myself doing this with my daughter. Yeah, but that's also, of course, I need to, pluck out the courage because I'm not as fearless as her. I have my concern too.
Yeah, I have a lot of adults always saying like, oh my god, my kids, like, the kids are always running so far, and then the adults are just like, oh.
Yeah. Yes.
But that's fine.
But like you said, I mean, once you take the one step out, I mean, you take the baby steps to try it, and then I think when you build up the confidence over time, I believe you will get better.
Yes.
It's about practicing. Is this suitable for age 50?
I would say yes. As long as you are adventurous, as long as you feel that you are okay to give it a try, no problem.
I mean, like, what happen if like I have weak ankle or sometimes I think as we age, right, probably our kneecap is not that good anymore. Can we still
Yeah, we can do it. Okay, so in the case that happens, I would really suggest you to sign up for our classes because all our instructors are actually taught and actually we actually train them to make sure that in such cases they are given slightly more priority in terms of safety. So we make sure that all their safety checklists are clear before we let them try, as in try on their own. So make sure we do the checklist with them. We run through with them about 2-3 times just to make sure that they understand. So like things like getting on and off the board, you get on. So make sure that they are able to do this comfortably without having like any kind of like unstable stance. Then they are fine.
Right. Okay. Great. I mean, that's good to know. Yeah. So you can actually ask your parents or relative, introduce them to these sports. Okay. Next question: what material is the board made of?
Okay, so this, I'd say most of the boards are actually made of wood. So it's actually a different construct. So there's actually some of it has maple, some of it mahogany wood. Bamboo is a very common thing. So it's actually made of wood. There are a slightly different variation, but those are very uncommon in Singapore. So most of them are actually made of wood. The parts, this is metal. Yeah, so there's different kind of alloys, so different companies will use different stuff. And then wheels, we call it urethane, so it's a kind of plastic. So to kind of just give a run through, the different parts are made of different things, but the general one is made of wood. Yes.
Okay, nice. All right, next question. Do you conduct team classes for groups of adults? I think this question might be like, if let's say I have a few friends and we are really interested, we want to explore these sports, can you do like probably a small group?
Yeah, we do. So we actually have team classes, like group classes for adults. I have one, the biggest size I had was 15. So what we will do is that we will actually make sure that the instructor to participant ratio is 1:5. So that's the maximum that we'll do. So generally, what I would suggest that is best to learn with a group of friends, right? Because things that other people can understand, they might be able to explain it to you better, and then vice versa.
Yeah, and I think if you go with your friends, it's also very fun.
It's more fun.
Right? And then you can practice together and laugh at each other. No, like just kidding.
Hey, they have. I found them. They laugh at each other.
I mean, that's part of the process, right? It's quite.
I'll laugh with you all also lah. When you laugh at your friends, just kidding.
I mean, and another way is that actually now is year end, right? So I think a lot of companies are also like doing probably some team building, activity. Do consider this sports. I think it's quite fun as well. Next question: can I rent a board to attend a class before buying it?
Yes. So our very first class, we actually have a free. I'm not correct. There's a free rental, so it's part of the package. So what it does is that when you purchase the package, the very first lesson you get this rental. So you kind of like try it out first. So within that period of time when you do all your lessons and everything, you try to fill out a bit first before you go on to purchase the board. Then we'll actually explain to you on the lesson itself. So yes, you can.
Yeah. Okay, next question. I dislocated my knee a few years back. Do you still recommend to try out longboarding? If yes, what precautions should I take note?
Okay, so this is a bit of a personal experience I've had. I've actually had one student who have very bad knees. So when he walks, it's really like he's struggling to walk. Today, every time the weather is good, he's going from West Coast all the way to East Coast. I think it takes him about 12 hours.
Wow,
straight.
Really?
Yeah, straight. So I would say yes, it's a good sport to kind of like do a bit of rehab. But of course, when you talk about precautions, do make sure that you gear up first. Make sure that you wear your knee guards. Now specifically because knee injuries, we want to talk about knee guards. Wrist is very important. So do make sure that all these things are done. Do practice them somewhere that you feel comfortable first before you try to explore outside. A few things that you want to do, a checklist to make sure that your balance is right, everything is, so, kind of like make sure that you're able to get on and off the board comfortably. Only then do you try the next step. So kind of like give yourself a little bit of a achievement milestone kind of thing. It's like, okay, check, check. And then by, I think about 6 months or so, you'll realize that, hey, actually, you're doing great. Your knees are doing great as well. So yes.
I mean, in a way, it does help with the rehab lah.
Yes.
Correct. Skateboarding, similar to longboarding, has been included in the recent Tokyo Olympics. What are your thoughts?
I think they're great. They're amazing. Like those kids are, man, they're inspiration. Yeah. If I had anything to say about it, it's a great inspiration because we do things that are slightly different. And to see them go like at the kind of heights or to do those tricks so comfortably is a whole different level. But having said that, it's not that we don't. We do have competitions as well. I do believe a very famous one is what we call So You Can Longboard Dance. It's called SYCLD. It's held in Amsterdam every year. Just that I think COVID kind of like stopped a little bit. But every year, the whole world goes there. Everyone's there. They are practicing. If you want to search it up on Google, YouTube, you can go and search it up. Many of our very famous overseas riders have participated, won championships. I think in 2018, Singapore representative actually won first place.
Wow.
Yeah, so actually we have a champion in Singapore at 2018, if I remember correctly.
Nice. Yes. Really good to know. And the next question, in fact, that's the last 3 questions before we wrap up for the session.
Okay.
How do I know which longboard suits me best? Do I get to view or try it at retail, or this discount is only for online purchase?
Okay, so the discount is actually, you can go to the store to take a look. So our store is actually at Odyssey Biz Hub to try and give a bit of a location-wise. So actually you can pop by, look at the boards, give it a couple of tries. We actually do have a few samples for you to give it a try. So you can actually skate in the shop, don't worry. We actually made a nice space just like this. When you skate in the shop, just give it a few feels, and then if you feel like, oh, okay, this board is speaking to you, then yeah, you can get that board. So you can just try it out. So to kind of know what is a good fix is that when you stand on the board, you want to make sure that you're comfortable. So sometimes when you stand on it and it sinks, and you don't like it, so you get something that's stiffer. So all you need to do is just to let the store people know that you want something that's stiffer, and then they'll change it up for you. Of course, do take precaution that if you want anything stiffer than the stiffest one that we have, we don't. Yes. But if let's say, for example, you step on and it sinks, so it's a bit flexier, and you like it, great. That means you kind of know. So there are actually different kind of legs. When you step on it, just give a good feel. Also, leg space is very important. If let's say, for example, you step on it and you realize you have no leg space, this is not a regular example because this is generally how you will look like, okay, comfortably. But if you end up doing something like this, or you do it towards the wheels, that's a gauge that board is too small for you. But I would say average Singaporeans, or when they try it out, 42, 44 inches, they are just nice. This is 46, so it's quite long. So this is actually more towards the dancing part. Yes.
Okay. I mean, if you go down to the stores, your colleague will also advise.
Correct.
So yeah, you can check them out on the website. The last 2 questions. Xavier, you make it look so easy. I know, right? You make it really look so easy. He just like screw there. I mean, just curious, do you also try to create your own signature move over time?
Yes. So the basic kind of things that we usually do, they're all around the world. So all these kind of tricks and dance that you actually see that is very common. So what is unique that we actually do is like how we piece it together. So remember I was talking about how like different puzzle pieces you make. So I do have my own signature, I would say line, piece together. Of course, the way that you do it is also suited to how you want to do it. So some of them, they put a little flair into it. Some of them, they look very elegant, especially the ladies. I've seen a lot of the longboard girls. Oh man, when they do it, I was like, I want to be like them too. But
I mean, you did a ballet move. So you can slowly move towards that.
Trust me, if you think that was great, you should have seen them. They're a lot better.
Okay. The last question for today, is the different length in board to suit the height or the age, or just easier to skate the longer one?
Ooh, okay, this is a little bit tougher one. Thank God we have extra time to talk about this. So I'm just gonna do it as fast as I can. When you talk about length of the board, what you want to do is to make sure that, like I said, leg space, right? So when you talk about height, now I'm 1.85 meters tall. It doesn't necessarily mean that I need to have a longer board. It just means that whatever is comfortable. So for something, I personally would prefer something that's 45 inches and above, Right? So this current selection that we have, we don't have a 45 inch, we have a 46, so I prefer to use the 46 inch. But in the case that you are 1.8 meters tall, you have long legs like me, and you step on a 46 and you realize that, nope, it's too long, it's fine. All right, so it's more towards what you feel that is more comfortable. So that's talking about height. All right, so even if, let's say, for example, you may be short, but when you do the steps and the dance, you kind of like want a little bit more leg space, because when you give like certain things a try, if you realize that if you overstep, that's kind of like a signal to telling you that, oh, okay, that's not enough space for you. Right? So you want to be comfortable, you want to make sure that you have leg room at all time. So that's talking about height, right? Age. Okay, so age is actually something that's a little bit different. 42 inches is what we have, the smallest, right? So when you talk about kids, 3 to probably about 8 years old, the 42 inch is perfect. Now, what happens when they grow up, right? So that's the part that we usually are more worried about. When they grow up, some of them may end up growing up to 1.6, 1.8. Some may not be as tall. Their legs are different. So you might then have to change. So a good gauge is to kind of like make sure that if they are below 8 years old, get them the 42 inch first. Let them feel it out a little bit. Only when they kind of like know what they really want to learn, then you go ahead to buy a longer board. Generally, I would say 42 inch is a good starting length, because it's very versatile, right? It's easy to carry, right? So if I were to ask you to carry this one, right, I was going to tell me it's very heavy. Yeah, because as a matter of fact, the longer the board, the slightly heavier it is. But that's something that you want to take note. If I remember, they're teenagers, whatever they feel that's comfortable, because they're in their growing stage. Then our instructors or our store assistants will actually advise better from there. And yes, yeah, so is it easier to skate on longer ones? Yes and no. I would say if you feel that you're more comfortable with a longer, a board, then yes. Some people are not.
Well, I mean, it boils down to a personal preference.
Correct.
And how comfortable you are on the board. Because
Yes.
if you're not comfortable, then you may end up, not doing it correctly as well. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think it's important to feel yourself. Go down to the shop. You can find him, Javier. Talk to him, and then he'll probably recommend you the most appropriate or suitable board that fits your height, and or your physics as well. All right. Thank you so much,
Thank you so
Javier,
much.
for coming today to share with us.